There is a quote that I think perfectly sets the stage for what we are about to talk about today. It's become a bit of a cliche in the tech world. You've probably heard it at a dozen conferences, usually spoken by someone wearing a very expensive vest. But when you apply it to the specific geography we are looking at today, it hits different.
I think I know the one you're circling. Talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not.
That's the one. And usually when you hear that, the context is, I don't know, a kid in Ohio versus a kid in San Francisco.
Right. Or maybe a student in London versus a student in Manchester. It's a developed world comparison.
Exactly. But today, I want to transport us somewhere else entirely. I want you to picture the remote, high-altitude hills of Humla in Nepal.
And we are talking about terrain where remote isn't just a figure of speech. I mean, we're talking about villages that might be days away from a paved road, where the infrastructure is incredibly fragile.
Incredibly fragile. And then I want you to contrast that image with the dense, bustling, chaotic, vibrant neighborhoods of Kathmandu.
And the disparity between those two settings it's stark. In Kathmandu, you have elite private schools that look and feel like prep schools in the West.
Totally. You have uniforms, tablets, international curriculums.
Direct pathways to universities abroad. It's a whole different world. And then, in the rural government schools, well, the reality is often students sharing torn textbooks, if they even have textbooks at all.
It's a massive, massive gap. But the source material we have today, which is this fascinating collection of vision plans, strategic proposals, and internal documents from February 2026, it suggests that this gap is about to close.
And not just incrementally, right? This isn't about sending a few more books up the mountain.
No. We are looking at a project called Pragya AI.
And the documents make a claim right out of the gate that I have to say it stopped me in my tracks. They describe this project not just as a startup or an ed tech company. They call it nation building in code.
Nation building in code. That is such a heavy phrase. It feels incredibly significant. And it immediately raises these massive what-if questions that are going to drive this whole deep dive.
Right.
Like, what if a grade 10 student in a remote village in Nepal could have a personal AI tutor that is just as effective, just as patient, and just as knowledgeable as a private tutor you might hire in Boston?
And to take it a step further, what if the solution to bridging that digital divide isn't just importing the latest idea from Silicon Valley? What if it requires something the source calls Himalayan reality-first engineering?
That distinction is so key, and we are definitely going to unpack that, because usually we assume tech means, blazing fast internet and shiny new devices. But this vision is grittier. It's more grounded.
It has to be.
We have a lot to get through today. We have a detailed vision for the platform itself, which is potentially called Pragya or Arrowhen.
Yeah.
We have a fascinating strategic content partnership proposal that's addressed to one of the most elite schools in Nepal.
And we absolutely cannot forget the logistics moonshot.
Oh, the shelves to servers initiative. I mean, this part of the document reads like a supply chain thriller. We're talking shipping containers of books from Los Angeles all the way to the Indian border. It's wild.
It is a massive interlocking ecosystem. But the mission, when you boil it down, is simple on paper, but just incredibly complex in execution.
Which is?
To deliver world-class personalized education to every single Nepali learner, using artificial intelligence as a democratizing force.
So let's start where we always should, the landscape. If we are going to build a nation in code, we need to know what the ground looks like right now. What is the current state of education in Nepal that necessitates this kind of, revolution?
Well, based on the source material, the landscape is defined by a few critical bottlenecks. First, obviously, is the digital divide we just talked about.
The gap in access.
The gap in access, yeah. But it's not just about hardware or internet speeds. It's also about the culture of learning itself. The source describes what it calls an exam-centric culture.
This is something that I think is hard to really grasp if you didn't grow up in that kind of system. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. In many parts of South Asia, and definitely in Nepal, education often gets distorted into just rote memorization.
Learning by heart.
Exactly. You aren't learning physics to understand how the universe works. You are memorizing the textbook definition of force. So you can write it down verbatim on the big national exams, the CE, or what used to be the SLC, the Iron Gate exams.
So it becomes a memory test. It's not a test of your intelligence or your comprehension.
Precisely. It becomes a filter, not a foundation. Can you regurgitate the text? Yes.
Yes.
You pass? No. You fail. It doesn't actually measure if you can apply the knowledge.
And what does that do to the system as a whole?
Well, because the system is so rigid
Mm.
and because the opportunities are so concentrated in the cities, you get this vicious cycle of brain drain. The brightest students, the ones who figure out the system, who have the hustle, who ace those memory tests, what do they do as soon as they can?
They leave.
They leave. They go to the US, Australia, the UK, Canada. They go where their talent is actually recognized and rewarded with opportunity. So the country is effectively investing in its best asset, its young people, for 18 years, and then another economy reaps all the dividends.
It's a cycle where your best talent literally exports itself.
It's a national tragedy, really. But here is the interesting thing. The source material argues that right now, specifically looking at the context of early 2026, is the perfect moment to break that cycle.
Okay, so why now? Why wasn't Nepal ready for this 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
The source outlines 5 specific reasons for this timing, and they interact with each other in really interesting ways. It's a convergence of factors.
Right, what's the first one?
First, we have the post-COVID reality. The pandemic was tragic, obviously, on a global scale, but it forced a behavioral shift in places like Nepal. It normalized the idea of remote learning for parents and students in a way that would have taken a decade otherwise.
That makes so much sense. The psychological barrier to learning from a screen was broken down by pure necessity. It's no longer seen as fake school or just playing games.
Precisely. Before 2020, if you told a Nepali parent their child was studying on a mobile phone, they would, probably assume the child was just wasting time. Now they understand that the phone can actually be a classroom. That cultural shift is irreversible.
Okay, that's a huge one. What's the second factor?
The second is a government foundation. The Curriculum Development Center in Nepal has already gone through the process of digitizing and uploading all the national textbooks as PDFs.
Now, that sounds pretty basic to us in the West. Oh, a PDF, but you're saying that's a critical first step.
It's a crucial base layer. It means a company like Pragya AI doesn't have to start from scratch. They don't have to physically scan thousands of pages of government books. The government has effectively done step 1. The raw, structured data is already there, waiting to be used.
So the foundation is poured. They just need to build the house on top of it.
Exactly. And third is the existing infrastructure from pioneers. There are organizations like Obonli Nepal Open Learning Exchange that have been working on this for years. They've already built interactive modules. They've set up digital infrastructure in rural areas.
So this new project isn't starting from zero.
Not at all. It's standing on the shoulders of those who came before. They know what fails in a village setting. They know what happens when a server gets too hot, or when dust gets into the vents, or when the power is unreliable. That institutional knowledge is just priceless.
It saves them years of mistakes. Okay, and the fourth reason for the timing.
This one is huge. Diaspora power. Remittances money sent home by Nepalists working abroad make up nearly a quarter of Nepal's entire GDP.
Wait, let's just pause on that for a second. A quarter, 25% of the whole economy.
Yes. It's a staggering figure. So you have this massive population of Nepalists living in places like the US, the UK, the Middle East, who are financially capable and, more importantly, are deeply and emotionally invested in their homeland.
They want to help.
They desperately want to help. But they often don't know how, beyond sending cash to family for immediate consumption. This project gives them a structural way to invest, a way to invest in the country's future capital. It's children.
Instead of just consumption, it's an investment. And finally, the fifth point.
Just basic market trends. The Asia-Pacific edtech market is booming. It's one of the fastest growing sectors in the world. The argument is that Nepal can plug into this current. If they build this now, they are swimming with the tide, not against it.
So you've got the cultural shift, the government data, the existing infrastructure, the diaspora capital, and the market tailwinds.
It's a perfect storm of opportunity.
So the visionary goal here, the big idea, is to turn education into a multiplier. The source has this great line: if the internet can stream live cricket matches across the Himalayas, which we know it can because everyone watches them, it should be able to stream knowledge.
That's the core thesis right there. If the pipes are good enough for entertainment, they are good enough for enlightenment.
I love that. Okay, let's get into the solution itself. Part 2 of our deep dive, the Pragya AI platform. First off, I have to say I really like the proposed names. Pragya means wisdom, and Arahan means ascent. Both feel very, very aspirational.
They do. They signal that this isn't just about, passing a test. It's about climbing. It's about rising. And the architecture of the platform itself is designed to match that aspiration. The core innovation here is what they call a dual-track model.
Okay, Break that down for us, because
Okay.
usually ed tech falls into one of two traps, right?
Right.
Either it's all free and the company goes broke because there's no business model.
Or it's super expensive and it ends up excluding the very people, poor people who was supposed to help in the first place.
Exactly. So how are they trying to thread that needle?
It's a really clever separation of concerns. Track one is the open knowledge layer. This is the democratization part. This is the social mission.
So this is the free stuff.
Free or ultra low cost, yeah. It includes the basic AI tutor, the library of content, the videos from the government curriculum. There is no gatekeeping. If you want to learn, you just come in and learn. It is completely self-paced.
Okay, so that covers the social mission, but how does it keep the lights on? Because nation building usually needs a budget.
And that's track two, the credentials layer.
Yeah.
This is the revenue generator. This track is different. It's cohort-based, meaning you join a class with other students. It has proctored exams to prevent cheating. It gives you verified certificates, and it offers mentorship.
Ah, I see.
The philosophy is, knowledge is for everyone. Credentials are for those who earn them and are willing to pay for the verification of that knowledge.
That's a really smart distinction. You aren't locking away the algebra lesson itself. Anyone can learn algebra for free.
Correct.
You are locking away the certificate that proves to an employer that you actually know algebra.
Exactly. And in a credential-heavy society like Nepal, that certificate has real, tangible market value. It creates a sustainable business model without betraying the core social mission.
That's brilliant. But honestly, the most interesting part of the product design for me isn't even the business model, it's the engineering philosophy.
Wow.
The source explicitly critiques what it calls Silicon Valley thinking.
Yes, Himalayan reality-first engineering. I love this term. It sounds like something out of a Neil Stephenson novel or something. What does that actually look like in practice, though?
Well, think about how an engineer in, say, Mountain View, California, builds an app. They assume you have 5G or at least high-speed Wi-Fi that is always on.
They assume your battery is always charged, you have unlimited data.
And you're using the latest iPhone. In rural Nepal, every single one of those is a dangerous, faulty assumption. The power might go out for 6 hours. The data might be incredibly slow or prohibitively expensive.
So if you build a standard app that needs to constantly ping a server in Virginia every time you click a button,
It's going to break. It's going to be useless. It will just show a spinning wheel of death and frustrate the user.
so instead they are proposing an offline-first design using something called progressive web apps, or PWAs.
Okay, for the non-technical listeners out there, walk us through the user experience of a PWA in this specific context. How does it feel for that student in Humla?
Okay, so imagine you're that student. Maybe once or twice a week, you go to the town center or the school where there's a decent Wi-Fi or 4G signal. You open the Pragya app on your cheap Android phone, and you hit sync.
Okay, so you're loading up the pack, basically.
You're loading up. The app downloads all your modules, your math lessons, your science quizzes, the compressed videos, everything you need for the whole week. It all gets stored locally on your phone.
And then what?
Then you walk back up the hill to your home where there is zero signal, absolutely nothing. You open the app, and it just works perfectly. You can watch the videos, you can take the quizzes, you can interact with all the content.
Yeah.
The app saves all your progress locally on your phone's storage.
And then the next time you get a signal.
The next time you get even a flicker of signal, maybe days later, the app detects it and it syncs back up at the main server. It uploads your scores, your progress, and it downloads the next batch of content.
That is absolutely crucial because if a student in a rural district needs constant connectivity to study, they just won't study. It's a non-starter.
It's a non-starter. This is all about resilience. It's about designing for the user's worst day, not their best day. It's engineering for the reality of the Himalayas, not the fantasy of San Francisco.
Let's talk about the AI in Pragya AI, the AI tutor, because AI is a buzzword we hear everywhere. Every company is slapping AI on their product. What makes this specific to the Nepali context? What makes it more than just a marketing term?
Well, the documents are clear that it's not just a wrapper around ChatGPT that gives you an answer. It's designed to foster contextual intelligence. The features are really tailored for a student who might be struggling with the basics or who might be the first person in their family to get this far in school.
So it's not an answer engine, it's a teaching engine.
Exactly. For example, it doesn't just give you the answer to a math problem. It uses hint-based guidance. It might say, have you considered using the Pythagorean theorem here? Or, what's the first step in balancing this chemical equation? It guides you to the answer.
So it's more of a Socratic method.
Very much so. It creates step-by-step explanations, and it can generate thousands of practice problems tailored to what you're struggling with. And the language aspect here is huge, right?
Yeah, you mentioned this before. This seems critical.
It is. It's designed to be deeply multilingual. It can translate and explain concepts between Nepali and English in real time. A lot of students in Nepal struggle because the textbooks, especially for science and math, are often in English. But their thinking language, the language they use at home with their parents, is Nepali or Maithili or Tamang.
That's a massive cognitive load. You're trying to learn the physics and you're trying to learn the English vocabulary for the physics at the same time.
Right. This AI acts as a bridge. You can highlight a complicated paragraph about photosynthesis and just ask the AI, explain this to me in simple Nepali, and boom, that barrier's gone. It creates a localized, comfortable learning environment.
And I noticed in the specs it mentions a voice interface.
Yes, which is absolutely essential for low literacy users or for younger children. Being able to just ask a question out loud, how does a motor work? And hear the answer in your own language is a much lower barrier to entry than typing. It feels more like a conversation with a patient teacher and less like a query into a database.
Then there is the adaptive learning engine. This sounds like it's trying to move away from the old factory model of education.
It is, completely. The traditional model is push. The teacher pushes the whole class through Chapter 1 on Monday, then Chapter 2 on Wednesday, regardless of whether you actually understood Chapter 1.
And if you didn't get it, well, too bad. The train is leaving the station.
The train is leaving. And that's how you get students in grade 10 who can't do grade 5 math. They missed one fundamental concept 5 years ago, and they never, ever caught up. The gap just got wider and wider.
So how does adaptive learning fix that?
Adaptive learning is pull. The system's algorithm identifies that you personally are weak in fractions. So it pauses your algebra progression and pulls you back to a module to master fractions first. It creates a personalized daily plan for you. It treats learning as a mastery curve, not a fixed timeline.
Everyone gets to the destination, but they might take different paths to get there.
Exactly. It's personalized at scale.
Okay, let's move to part 3, the content strategy and legal ethics. There is a very specific ambition mentioned in the source material, digitize everything, but there's a big flashing asterisk next to it regarding the legality of that.
This is a really mature and, I think, important perspective from the source. Often you see early-stage digitization projects, especially in developing regions, that they scan everything.
Entire Bay model.
The Pirate Bay model, yeah. Copyrighted textbooks, pirated videos from YouTube. They adopt a move fast and break things approach. And one of the things they break is the law. They figure they'll ask for forgiveness later.
But this proposal takes a very different route.
Yes, they take a strict anti-piracy stance. They explicitly say in bold letters in the document, no scanning copyrighted books illegally. They recognize that if you want to build a national institution, something that lasts, you cannot build it on a foundation of intellectual property theft.
So where does the content come from then if they can't just scan the popular Pearson and McGraw-Hill textbooks?
It's a multi-pronged strategy,
Yeah.
which is the smart way to do it. First, they use the government digitized content, which is public domain. That's the core curriculum.
Okay.
Second, they tap into the world of open educational resources, or OER. There's a massive global movement of high-quality, free, open-source textbooks and materials that are just waiting to be adapted and translated.
So that's legal and free.
Legal and free. Third, they plan for licensed partnerships, actually paying publishers or making revenue share deals with them. And finally, creating their own original AI-enhanced content in-house. They'll have Nepali teachers creating new videos, new quizzes that are perfectly tailored to the curriculum.
It's the high road approach. It's definitely harder and slower, but it's the only way to build a sustainable institution that doesn't get shut down by a lawsuit in year 2.
Exactly right. And looking at their roadmap, they're being realistic about that pace. They have this clear phase 0 to phase 3 plan that spans about 3 to 5 years.
Walk us through that briefly. What's the plan of attack?
So phase 0 is the foundation or the sandbox phase.
Yeah.
Build the minimum viable product, the MVP, partner with an existing player like Oli Nepal to learn from them, and then run a pilot with maybe 200 to 500 users.
Keep it small.
Keep it very small. Break things, fix them. Don't even think about scaling until you know the core product works and people want it.
Then what happens in phase 1?
Phase 1 is about product market fit. That's where they aim for 10,000 active users and try to raise a proper seed round of funding. This is the stage where they have to prove that people will actually use this thing day in and day out.
Makes sense. Phase 2.
Phase 2 is about scale and depth. They want to have full K-12 coverage of the Nepali curriculum on the platform. And this is interesting. They want to build telco partnerships for zero-rated data.
Oh, I've seen this in other countries. So that means the Mobile carriers like Ncell or Nepal Telecom would agree not to charge data usage for any traffic going to the Pragya AI app.
Precisely. If you remove the cost of data, you remove one of the single biggest friction points for poor families. Because even if the app itself is free, if using it eats up your entire monthly data plan, it's not really free, is it? Zero rating makes it truly, truly accessible.
A game changer. And finally, phase 3.
Phase 3 is the long game. That's where they look at getting university credit, MOU, so you can take courses on Pragya that count toward a university degree, and then regional expansion, taking the model beyond Nepal's borders.
Okay, speaking of partnerships, this leads us to one of the most specific and, frankly, fascinating documents in the entire source material, part 4 of our deep dive, the strategic partnership with Budhanilkantha School.
And you often just hear it called BNKS.
BNKS, right. For those listeners who don't know the context, Budhanilkantha is arguably the most prestigious school in Nepal. It's often compared to, I don't know, at Eton or a Harrow in the UK, but it's a public boarding school with this deep, deep history of producing the country's leadership. To get in is a massive achievement.
A life-changing event for a family.
Absolutely. And the source material includes a literal proposal, a formal document addressed to the principal of BNKS, and it proposes creating a digital twin of the entire school. What on earth does that mean?
It's a radical idea. The concept is to digitize the entire curriculum and teaching methodology of this elite school. Not just the textbooks they use, but the actual classroom experience itself.
How do you digitize a classroom?
They want to put high-quality cameras and microphones in the classrooms and record the lectures. But here's the kicker. They want the lectures to be uploaded the same day.
Same day upload. Wow, that's ambitious. That's not. We'll get an intern to edit this and we'll post it online next month.
No, it's near real time. It transforms the school from just a physical place with walls into a digital broadcast center for the entire nation. And the proposal creates a business model around it. It suggests a revenue share.
What's a split?
33.33% of the revenue generated from this premium BNKS content goes directly to the school, and 66.67% goes to Pragya AI to run the platform.
Okay, but why would the school agree to this? They're already the most prestigious school. They have far more applicants than they can ever handle. What's their incentive?
The proposal frames it in a very smart way.
Mm.
It frames it as creating a sustainable digital endowment for the school. Schools always need money, right? Usually they have to raise fees, which parents hate, or they have to go beg wealthy alumni for donations. This model allows the school to earn significant money while they sleep just by doing what they already do every day, teach. It monetizes their core asset, which is their excellence.
That's the practical argument. But there is a deeper, more philosophical argument in the proposal about institutional immortality. That phrase really, really stuck with me.
It's powerful, isn't it? The proposal argues that in the analog era, a school's prestige was defined by its exclusivity, by how hard it was to get in, by the walls, by the gates, by the gatekeepers.
Well, that's a complete 180 in mindset. It's a total paradigm shift.
It is. The proposal is basically asking the school's leadership a question. Do you want to be excellent for the 1,000 students who are lucky enough to be inside your gates? Or do you want to extend that Budhanilkantha excellence to a brilliant, motivated rural student in Dolpa who will never, ever have the chance to step foot on your physical campus? It argues that true lasting prestige in the 21st century comes from lifting the whole nation up, not just from serving a tiny chosen few.
So it effectively democratizes this elite education without diluting the core brand of the physical school. In fact, you could argue it strengthens the brand because now every student in Nepal grows up learning from Budhanilkantha teachers, aspiring to be like them.
That's exactly the argument they make. And the plan doesn't stop there. They view this partnership with BNKS as a proof of concept. The document explicitly says that if they can make this model work in Nepal, they want to take it to the IITs and IMs in India, the premier engineering and management institutes in all of Asia.
Which segues perfectly into part 5 of our deep dive, the first language revolution. This section of the source material gets into the geopolitics and really the cognitive science of education. And I think this is the part that applies well beyond Nepal to the entire global south.
I agree. This is perhaps the most intellectually significant part of the entire vision. It tackles what it calls the English-first problem in EdTech.
Right. Most of the big global platforms, your Coursera, your Khan Academy, your edX, they're primarily in English. And the source argues this forces students in the global south into a state of defensive thinking.
I love that term, defensive thinking. It's so descriptive. Think about it. When you are learning physics or chemistry in a second language, Your brain is burning a huge amount of its processing power just translating the words. Wait, what does velocity mean again? What's the difference between molecule and atom? You are fighting the language, not wrestling with the actual concepts.
So you aren't doing conceptual thinking. You're just doing translation work in your head the whole time.
Correct. And that slows you down. It creates a cognitive lag. It's like running a race with weights on your ankles. The solution proposed here is first language AI.
And this is where the partnership with a company called Sarvam AI comes in.
Yes, Sarvam is an Indian AI company that is building large language models, LLMs, that are specifically optimized for Indian and other regional languages.
So this is not just taking an English model like GPT-4 and running text through Google Translate, which can be clunky and miss all the cultural nuances.
No, this is an AI that can think in the local linguistic structure.
Yeah.
The example given in the document is an AI that can explain algebra in fluent Tamil or discuss biology in conversational Hindi or even use Hinglish, that mix of Hindi and English that millions of people actually speak in their daily lives, for doubt resolution.
It removes the friction. It meets the student where they are. If I can ask a question in the exact same language I speak at home with my family, I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to be less afraid of sounding stupid.
100%. And the geopolitical strategy here is fascinating. It envisions this three-step flow: Nepal, then India, then the global south.
Unpack that flow for us.
Okay, so step one, prove the model in Nepal. It's a low-cost, contained environment. It's the perfect sandbox. It has diverse terrain, diverse languages, but a manageable population.
You prove it works there first.
Then step two, scale in India. That's the inflection point. India is the ultimate test because it has 22 official languages and hundreds of dialects. If you can solve multilingual AI education for India, you have basically built a platform that can be adapted for anywhere in the world.
Next step three.
Step three is you export that proven model to the rest of the global south, to WALI, to countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia.
The source paints this really beautiful picture of what it calls a South-South knowledge network.
Yes, and the vision is powerful. Imagine a Kenyan student learning biology in Swahili on a platform whose core infrastructure was developed in Kathmandu and whose AI models were trained in Bangalore.
They're bypassing the traditional Western gatekeepers of knowledge entirely.
Completely. It's a vision of decentralized educational power. It's a statement that says, we don't need London or New York or Silicon Valley to tell us how to build our own education systems. We can build them for ourselves, by ourselves.
It's incredibly ambitious. But let's ground this back in the physical world for a moment. Because while AI is great, you still need books. Physical books, you can't download a tactile experience. And part 6 of our deep dive covers this wild logistics moonshot called shelves to servers.
This part of the plan honestly reads like a supply chain thriller. The core concept is something they call waste to wisdom.
The premise is simple, right? The U.S. has too many books, and a country like Nepal has far too few.
Exactly. In the U.S., libraries discard books constantly to make room for new ones. Students throw away old editions of calculus textbooks because a new edition came out with different page numbers, even if the math is the same. Universities literally pulp them. These books are treated as a surplus, as trash, basically.
But in Nepal, those same books are like gold dust.
Absolute gold. So the question is, what is the pipeline? How do you get a book from a dusty basement in Boston to the hands of a student in the Terai Plains of Nepal? This isn't just putting a book in the mail.
No, this is logistics on an industrial scale.
It is. Step one is collection. They want to mobilize the diaspora groups like SEBSI-SNA, that Society of Ex-Budhanilkantha Students in North America, but also other Nepali student associations, even community centers and temples. Create collection points in cities like New York, Chicago, Boston, Dallas.
So you gather the books, then what?
Consolidation. You ship everything to a central hub in Los Angeles, YLA, because it's a strategic port location for trans-Pacific shipping. You gather enough books to fill a 40-foot shipping container.
And then it goes onto a ship.
Then it goes onto a massive container ship for the long journey to Kolkata, India. That's the closest major international port to Nepal. From the port in Kolkata, it goes onto a train.
A train to where?
A train to the India-Nepal border, to a city called Birgunj.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. They don't just want to hand out the books from the back of a truck. They want to build a Birgunj knowledge warehouse.
This is the digitization factory piece of the puzzle. They want to establish a massive facility in Birgunj, which is typically a dusty, busy trade and customs city known for trucks and pollution, and turn it into a knowledge city.
How?
They would employ local youth to use high-speed, non-destructive book scanners.
Non-destructive is the key word there, right? So the physical book survives the process.
Yes, exactly. They aren't cutting the spine off the book. They scan every page, use OCR optical character recognition to turn the images into searchable text and have people tag the metadata. What's the title? Who's the author? What's the subject?
And so suddenly, that old American calculus textbook becomes a searchable, interactive digital learning module for a student anywhere in Nepal. And the physical book can still be sent to a physical school library. You get two uses out of one book.
It's the ultimate form of recycling, turning waste into a national asset. But the legal nuance is mentioned here again, and it's a big one.
Right. Copyright.
It is. They acknowledge that copyright law is the biggest hurdle to this whole shelves to servers plan. You can't just digitize the entire Harry Potter series and give it away for free.
So how do they plan to handle that?
They plan to focus on books that are clearly in the public domain, or to try and make a fair use for educational transformation argument for others. It's a legal gray area for sure, but the moral argument saving books from American landfills to educate the poor is very, very strong.
It's a risk, but a calculated one. Okay, let's talk about the fuel for all this. Part 7, financials and execution. How do they actually pay for this grand vision?
Well, the plan has a built-in low-burn advantage. Building a world-class tech team in Kathmandu costs about 30 to 50% less than building one in Bangalore, India. And it's a tiny fraction of what it would cost in Silicon Valley.
You can hire brilliant engineers in Nepal for a fraction of the cost of a junior developer in San Francisco.
Exactly. But the digital margins are high. Once you build the content on the platform, it costs almost nothing to serve the next user.
Yeah.
So the economics are very favorable once you reach scale.
And the initial funding strategy, it relies heavily on that specific diaspora group we mentioned earlier, SESNA.
It's a very targeted ask. They're not trying to boil the ocean and pitch every VC on Sand Hill Road. They are looking to raise a pre-seed or seed round of about $750,000 to $1.5 million, likely via safe notes or convertible notes.
And the pitch is very specific.
It's emotional and it's logical. It's not just give us money for a potential 10x return. It's help us extend the excellence of your old school, the school that gave you your start in life, to every single child in your home country.
It taps into that powerful mix of pride and maybe a little bit of guilt that a lot of successful people in the diaspora feel.
Exactly. You made it out. You were one of the lucky ones. Now here is a concrete way to help the ones who are still there. It's a very compelling narrative.
The pricing for the end user seems pretty reasonable too, from what's in the document.
It's a classic freemium model. The basic access, the open knowledge track, is free. The premium features, like the credential tracks, the proctored exams, the mentorship, that costs between $999 to $2,999 Nepali rupees per month.
And what's that in US dollars, roughly?
Roughly $8 to $25 USD per month. For a verified certificate that could genuinely help you get a better job, that's affordable for the emerging middle class in Nepal.
Of course, no deep dive is complete without looking at the potential downsides. Part 8, the final section, identifies a few major risks.
And there are real landmines here for sure. Copyright, as we mentioned with the book plan, is the big legal risk. If a major publisher like Pearson decides to make an example of them, it could get very expensive and very ugly.
What about the physical risks?
Infrastructure is the main one. The whole model depends on that offline-first design working flawlessly. If the internet cuts out for a week, or the national electricity grid fails for a few days, that offline mode has to work perfectly. If it's buggy, if a student loses their work, you lose that user's trust forever.
And then there are the human barriers, the adoption barriers.
This is a huge one. Convincing teachers that this AI isn't here to replace them, but to be their assistant, to help them. That is always a hard sell. Teachers are, rightly protective of their classrooms and their profession. You have to bring them along. You can't just impose this on them from the top down.
The broader impact, if they can navigate those risks, if they can actually pull this off.
It's massive. It's nation-changing. It directly reduces inequality between urban and rural areas. It slows the brain drain by creating a digitally empowered generation that can work high-skilled remote jobs for global companies from Nepal.
Imagine earning a San Francisco salary while living in Pokhara. That changes the entire economy.
It completely changes the economic calculus for young people, and it creates that institutional immortality for schools like BNKS that we talked about.
It brings us right back to that final provocative thought that the source material leaves us with, that vision of reversing the flow of history.
Yeah, walk us through that image one more time. It's so powerful.
For decades, for centuries really, the flow has been one way. People and knowledge and capital leave Nepal and go to the West. Brain drain. talent export, a resource extraction model, essentially.
And this project proposes knowledge flowing back.
Exactly. Digitally. From forgotten books on shelves in U.S. suburbs to active servers in the Himalayas, it's a complete inversion of the colonial era status quo. It's saying that the West has a surplus of stored knowledge and the East has a hunger for it. Technology can now be the bridge.
It's a fascinating, comprehensive blueprint. It's this incredible mix of high-tech AI and really gritty, on-the-ground logistics. It suggests that the solution to global educational inequality isn't about waiting for the UN or the World Bank to come up with some grand plan.
No, it's about diaspora networks, smart code, and leveraging the resources that are already lying around completely ignored, like those dusty books on a shelf in a garage.
Nation building in code. I think that phrase is going to stick with me. It's the idea that a line of Python, when applied correctly, can be as patriotic and as constructive as laying a brick for a new school.
Me too. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Pragya AI and the potential for an education revolution in Nepal. A huge thank you to the source material for giving us such a detailed and inspiring vision to explore. And to you, the listener, what stands out to you? Is it the AI tutor? Is it the wild logistics of the book pipeline? Or is it that idea of a digital twin for elite schools?
It's definitely a lot to think about.
Yeah,
Really hopeful vision.
it is. Until next time, keep diving deep.